والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue in the next class on the day of Sunday, September the 16th, 3:49 p.m., 2018 of the Gregorian calendar, which agrees with the Hijri calendar, the calendar of the migration, or after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, which is called Taqweem al-Hijri, which is the 5th of Muharram, 1440, 1440, after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. And don't forget, everyone, about the day of Yom Ashura, which will be the 10th of Muharram, but however, one should try to fast the day before it, the day after it, and opposing the mushrikeen. So, everyone investigate of what's coming as far as attaining that reward of the fasting of Yom Ashura, but not just fasting the day of Yom Ashura, but trying to fast the day before it, or the day after it, or the day before, the day after it, and doing all three. Or if one wants to do the day before it and the day of Yom Ashura, which is all emphasized, which we'll clarify, inshallah. طيب. We continue in the chapter of Kitab al-Nikah. We're speaking about al-Kafa'ah wal-Khiyar. Al-Kafa'ah wal-Khiyar. The chapter of adequacy and alternative or choice. Al-Kafa'ah wal-Khiyar. We stopped at the narration of what happened with the Prophet ﷺ's daughter, Zainab. I think that's where we started. The Prophet ﷺ, before he made hijrah, that his daughter, Zainab, was married to Abu al-As ibn Rabi'. If you look into the story of what Ibn Kathir and what also Al-Imam al-Dhahabi mentioned in Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, I'm trying to get to the page. Here it is. If you look into the what Ibn Kathir mentioned, Bidayah wa Nihaya, it's actually kind of like a story, which I don't want to make it too as somewhat like a drama of what kind of us or what we were brought up upon, but it is somewhat of a love story between two couples who loved each other, but then one became Muslim and went with her father, who was the Prophet ﷺ, and she left her husband, who remained upon kufr, and not only made upon kufr, but even participated in war with her against her father. Participated in a war against her own father. And she separated himself from him due to the fact that he remained upon, remained upon kufr. Excuse me, everyone. I don't know, what is a fly? Keep coming. طيب. So we saw what happened with Zainab. The Prophet ﷺ, as it says in the narration that we're in Kitab al-Nikah, the book of marriage, we're still in the chapter of Kafa'ah, al-Khiyar. He said that the Prophet ﷺ had returned his daughter Zainab back to Abu al-As ibn Rabi' after 6 years with the same marriage contract when they were upon the deen of the way of the mushrikeen, when they became married before Islam. And it said that that the Prophet ﷺ did not marry them off again. If you look in your books, everyone looks in their books of Buloogh Al-Maraam, it says, وَلَمْ يُحْدِثْ نِكَاحًا. The Prophet ﷺ did not marry them off again, or write up a new marriage contract, or there was not a marriage contract that was made, meaning a new one. So everything was based upon a previous marriage contract before or when they were what? They both at the time were not Muslim, and when the Prophet ﷺ was sent as a prophet earlier on in the revelation. Right. Just to keep and bring us all on one one page, what we said last week. If you notice in the previous narrations, like we also mentioned and said, just to get everyone just concise, to get everyone in their minds ready to what we're going to say today. We said the last two narrations, if you look in your books, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not command that they be married off again. Rather, he used the old marriage contracts that were made before Islam. Meaning, if you look in the narration, if you look in your books, it says that the Messenger of Allah, of course, we know what happened with Fayruz al-Daylami. Upon Dahhak ibn Fayruz al-Daylami, it says, O Messenger of Allah, I became Muslim and I am married to two sisters. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, divorce one of them, of who you will, because it's not permissible in Islam to be married to two sisters at the same time. So we knew, like we talked about before, in this narration, what did we say last week, everyone? We said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam considered, due to the fact he did not say, okay, you have to now leave both of them and renew your marriage contract and marry all over again. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say that. Rather, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he do here in this, as we said last week? What did he do, everyone? He did and performed what they call tasheeh. He corrected it, but he did not renew it. He corrected the marriage contract, but he did not do, what did he not do? He did not renew it. So even though the contract was made in Jahiliyyah, or was made upon a way or religion that, of course, that opposes Islam, but still the religion, like we said, you'll find that Islam acknowledged it. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say to what in this narration here, marry all over again. All of it was incorrect because both of you are upon kufr, both of you are upon shirk. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say that. Rather he agreed with the marriage, and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed them to keep one, meaning that he considered the marriage of what was performed prior, before Islam. But however, he came to only rectify and correct it. That's it. And similar to that is the next narration that came after that. Upon the authority of Ghaylan ibn Salama, where the man, before Islam, he was married to 10 women. He was married to 10 women. And the Prophet ﷺ commanded that he choose 4 and divorce what? Divorce the rest. Notice that the Prophet ﷺ, similar to this narration, also likewise, what did he do and what he did not do? Basically what he did, he considered the marriage which was done prior before Islam, that it was a contract that was valid and it was recognized and it was considered and acceptable. However, what had happened was, once he embraced Islam, of course, once a person embraced Islam, then his mentioning of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah necessitates that now he abides to what Allah has revealed, or what is supposed to be correct. So once a person embraces Islam, now the ahkam, or the religion of Islam, now has to be definitely applied. Why? Because we know, like we said, once a person professes this testimony, then now he submits to what Allah has revealed. So Ghaylan ibn Salama, when he became Muslim, and likewise his wives, also along with him became Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ corrected the marriage, but he did not renew it. He said, keep 4 and divorce the rest. Keep 4 and divorce the rest. Why? Because he's saying that Allah is pleased that only a man be married, can only have up to 4. That's it. After that, beyond that is impermissible and is transgressing the boundaries that Allah has set. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ in this narration, as we mentioned, it said, did not renew it. He just corrected it. That's it. No more, no less. And likewise in this narration, which we're going to explain again, on the authority Ibn Abbas, it says, رد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ابنته زينب على أبي العاص ابن ربيع بعد 6 سنين بالنكاح الأول ولم يحدث نكاحا. رواه أحمد والأربعة إلا النسائي وصححه أحمد والحاكم. That Ibn Abbas said that the Messenger of Allah returned Zainab, his daughter, to Abu al-As ibn Rabi' after 6 years, utilizing or based upon the old marriage contract. And he did not write a new one. Also, likewise, the narration after that, as we discussed last week, عن عمرو الشعيب عن أبيه عن جده أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رد ابنته زينب على أبي العاص بنكاح جديد. It's on the authority, the famous isnad, which is on the authority of Amr ibn Shu'aib, upon his father, upon his grandfather. That the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned his daughter Zainab back to Abu al-As with a new marriage contract. At-Tirmidhi said, Hadith Ibn Abbas is more better as far as in its narration. I mean, it's more authentic. Its authenticity is what? Is better. Meaning of what? The first narration we mentioned. But he says, however, what we apply is this hadith. طيب. So like I said to the sisters, this is a very beneficial discussion in which we're going to discuss as we talked about last week. So we said that this is kind of a story where we know Zainab, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ when he was sent, or the early stages of revelation, there was a time where that the Muslim woman could remain married to the mushrik. There was a time. Yes, it was. As Ibn Kathir even mentions it. He mentions in the tafsir of the ayah, فَلَا تَرْجِعُوهُنَّ إِلَى الْكُفَّارِ لَا هُنَّ حِلُّ لَهُمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحِلُّونَ لَهُنْ. That ayah, where Allah Ta'ala says in his book, do not return the women, believing women, back to the kuffar. Meaning they're not halal, meaning the believing women are not halal for the non-Muslim men or what have you. طيب. At one stage of the point of revelation, it was where a woman who was a Muslim would remain married to a non-Muslim who was a mushrik. And that happened at one time, before it became abrogated and before the hukum or the ruling changed. At any rate, Zainab was married to Abu al-As, and he was a mushrik. And Abu al-As ibn Rabi', as Zainab was in love with him, and he was in love with her. He loved her, and she loved him. However, we know that the messenger, but her father was probably the greatest man that lived on this earth, the greatest of creation, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the most complete man in every way. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Complete man. And the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with the revelation to rectify humanity, which is a tremendous mission that he was given, alayhi salatu wassalam, to rectify all humanity. So he came with the message, alayhi salatu wassalam, and Zainab was still married to Abu al-As ibn Rabi'. So then, at the first stage, he said she could stay married to him. However, when the Prophet ﷺ made migration to Al-Madinah, when he made migration, Zainab said that she was going to leave with her father because she believed in him and she became Muslim and accepted the revelation that was being revealed upon the Prophet ﷺ. So she offered to him Islam, but he refused. At the time, he refused and rejected. He said, I'm going to stay upon what I'm upon. So she migrated with her father. And at one time, when the war of Badr broke out, we know that was a tremendous battle. The battle, they say, between haqq and batil, between truth and falsehood. The battle of Badr took place as Abu al-As was in the war against her father. So can you imagine? Can you imagine that she's in love with a man, her father is the greatest man of humanity of all time, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Of greatest of all prophets, the greatest of all messengers, the most complete of all men, alayhi salatu wassalam. And she was in love with her husband. So her husband now is going in. So now also likewise we know that Zainab had children from Abu al-As. She had children from Abu al-As. I think it was Ali and it was another child. Not Ali but Abi Talib, but one of her other children, Ali, and it was another child. I can't remember. But at any rate, she had children from Abu al-As. So when the war broke out, she said either one or two things was going to happen. She thought that, of course, his man is making war with my father, which is going to destroy, which is something tremendous, but destroying the light of what Allah wants to put on the earth, or my children are going to now become orphans because he might be killed. So this was a tremendous circumstance. So she's in a circumstance between someone who she loved and had feelings for, and between her father, who was the greatest of men, alayhi salatu wasalam. So the war broke out. The war broke out, Badr, as we know. And Abu al-As, just to make it short, straight to the point, Abu al-As was taken as a captive. He was taken as a captive. He wasn't killed, but he was taken as a captive. When he was taken as a captive, Zainab had a necklace, as Sira A'lam and also Ibn Kathir mentioned Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, had a necklace from Khadija. Khadija. Who's Khadija? We know was the Prophet ﷺ's wife, who also died from the greatest of the women. The greatest of women, who's Khadija. She had a necklace. So she wanted to use that to ransom Abu Rabi'. So she showed that she had some care for him. Even though he was still upon shirk and kufr, he was taken as a captive in war. So her necklace, when she said her necklace to the Prophet ﷺ. So when the necklace, the Prophet ﷺ looked at it, and they said in some narration, the Prophet ﷺ's heart became real soft. He seen the necklace of a woman he tremendously loved, who was Khadija. He looked at it, and his heart became soft. Until he seen the necklace, he looked at it, because Zainab wanted to utilize that in order for what? To ransom, to remove him as a captive, her former husband. When he was released, of course, to be sent back. What is up with this? They keep attacking me. Wow. When she used that in order to release Abu Rabi' ibn al-As, to release him, to not be a captive, and to use him, as, of course, to use that as a ransom. So the Prophet ﷺ released him and said to the Sahaba, what do you think? They said to release him and let him go, and also likewise take in consideration that before she was her husband, and also likewise that Abu al-As used to be Zainab's husband. However, in the narration it says, as we know, if you take, oh, thanks, Boom Boom. If you take what happened in the narration, it says that in the hukum of a ransom, of who had to be linked up together, the who that was ransomed and also the woman that ransomed them will be somewhat coupled together. So there was an offer made to Abu al-As. He said, will you release her? If I release you, you release of the agreement. He says, I'll do it. Now fulfill it. So he fulfilled it. So Zainab stayed, and he was let go, and he returned back to Mecca. So Abu al-As went back to Mecca. Tayyib. Later on, of course, we know. Later on down the line, of course, what happened with Zainab years later. Of a narration, this is what we're talking about now, because I don't want to give too much details, because we have to talk about the ahkam, the rulings in regards to this narration. At any rate, to make a long story short, Abu al-As, even though this was his state and this was his affair, of course we know she had natural love for this man. But for one day he came and he went to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and he announced that he embraced Islam. And he also said, where's Zainab? So Zainab loved him, he loved her. So Abu al-As, in this particular story, looked for Zainab and told Zainab and said that I embraced Islam. And the Messenger of Allah says, before he even came, he says, what do you think? To his daughter. And she said she was shy and she smiled. I mean, she was extreme, she was ecstatic, she was happy. Her former husband had what? Had became Muslim, which allowed them to what? To be married. And also likewise, keep in mind, for all those years, between that, she never married anyone else. Even it says in some narrations there were offers of her getting married again. But she didn't do it. She didn't do it, and she remained patient until, like he said, her former husband became Muslim, who was Abu al-As ibn Rabi' radiyallahu anhu. So it's a little, I don't want to keep it but it's somewhat of, as they say, it's somewhat of a love story, where you'll find that it's between honor and chivalry, which is lost these days at times. Because everybody now is just so anxious and quick. I'm moving on to the next. I'm trying to get in another man's arms. And I'm trying to, and it's just sad that honor and chivalry and class is just lost. And that's the days we live in now. But back then, it was about honor, chivalry, true love, and class. And these are the things that are lost these days, where everybody's just so anxious and nasty, and everything is about to satisfying his desires, not being patient. Everybody's just anxious, and I gotta get what I gotta get now. And these things you'll find are regretful, and everyone regrets it in the end. But however, this outcome was something that was beneficial for Zainab and the great Sahabi Abul As, which is somewhat of a love story. But at any rate, getting back now to the narration, what do we extract from this? We extract from this narration. We said from the ahkam or the fawaid that's extracted from the narration, it says that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ returned his daughter back to Zainab, back to Abul As ibn Rabi' after 6 years. We already discussed, right, everyone, that a woman, we said if a man and a woman become both are upon the religion of Christianity, or let's just say upon kufr in general. A woman becomes Muslim. Once she becomes Muslim, then what, everyone? What do we say? We said once a woman becomes Muslim and a man remains upon, or the state of his religion, what he's upon, whether it be Christianity or what have you, whatever it is, what happens? We said that the iddah starts. That the iddah, or the waiting period, starts. And we said that the waiting period is of 3 months if she has a mens. And if she does not have a mens at all, then it is what? 3 months if she does not have a mens at all. And we said from no example of that, if her being, for example, a young girl or an elderly woman, or upon that of what happens in these days, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our sisters, of having a hysterectomy. When they have their actual reproductive organs removed. Because usually in those cases, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, a woman doesn't have a mens at all after that. So what does a woman do if she now has a divorce? Or let's just say in this circumstance, in this circumstance, she becomes Muslim and her husband becomes what? Or stays or remains upon his religion or his way and what he's upon. What does she do? Like I said, the iddah starts. The iddah starts and she will wait 3 months. 3 months. Or menstrual cycle. 3 menstrual cycles. Not months. 3 menstrual cycles. Doesn't matter whether it's regular or abnormal. Doesn't matter. Whether she gets it once every 3 months, once every 4 months, it doesn't matter. What is took into consideration, what is utilized is the menstrual cycle. As I said last class, if a woman wanted to use, for example, some type of herbs or medicine that regulates her mens, she can do that. But however, what is took into consideration for her waiting period is the mens, as long as she has one. As they say, the hukum yaduru ma'a illate, yani ma'a wujud ad-dam aw adame. As they say, the ahkam of what we're discussing, it revolves around the illah, around the reason. What's the reason? Meaning either the blood being there or not being there. So, if the blood is there, then we have to take that consideration. That's a mens. If it goes on and off, it doesn't matter whether it's on time or whether it's late or whether it's abnormal. If a woman has a mens, that's what she has to use. If she wants to expedite her situation, meaning when she wants to speed it up a bit, then she can take herbs or whatever to regulate her mens so it could be on time. Yes, she could do that. But however, once she has a mens, she has to go by the mens. طيب. We said now after the iddah starts, because the man is upon, let's just say, kufr, as we said. He's upon a religion of other than al-Islam, and we know that it's not permissible for a woman to be married to a non-Muslim. It's not permissible. And people will say, طيب, what's the ayah? The ayah, we just said it. It's Surah Al-Mumtahina. Allah Ta'ala says, do not return the believing women back to the kuffar. They are not permissible for them, and they meaning the women, are not the believing men and women are not permissible for them, and they are not permissible, meaning the disbelieving men are not permissible for them. So those ayahs is to show that what if a woman stays with a man that's not Muslim, keep in consideration your belief system and that your accountability with Allah will be in the hereafter. So it's not about this world, as I discussed last class. Everything we go through now, we think about what's in front of us. No, we have to think what's coming. What's coming. That this affair is displeasing to my Lord. That if I meet Allah and He asks me about this, what am I going to say? And in that instance, it's not going to be an affair of where I can return back and be given another chance. Because then, in that particular situation, it's about paradise and hell now. It's about paradise and hell now. So that's a very, very horrific circumstance to be in, that you come on the day of resurrection and you're in this state. So that reason for true believing women who embrace the correct aqidah, then they're automatic, who have a strong faith, are going to leave. And they're going to say, listen, my faith and my fear of my Lord overtakes my love for you. So now she leaves and her iddah starts. Based upon what Tirmidhi says in this narration here, if you look in your books, just to sum up everything, what Tirmidhi is saying here, if a woman becomes Muslim and a man remains upon the religion or way of disbelief, what will happen is within that time frame of her iddah, then the man, if he becomes Muslim, and the iddah, she's still in her waiting period, and he becomes Muslim, then they can resume their marriage. That is agreed upon. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear what I'm saying? Is everyone with me? The problem is where the affair where it differs, where it gets confusing, is after the iddah. Where it gets confusing is after the waiting period is over, where she had 3 menstrual cycles. That's where it gets confusing. If you look in your books here, just to sum up everything, when in your books here it says what? The hadith of Zainab is saying basically here that after the waiting period is over, even though a long time frame elapsed, still it was permissible for the woman to what? Return back to her former husband, even though the waiting period was over. The next narration, if you look in your books of what Tirmidhi says in your book here, what Tirmidhi is saying here is, if the iddah period or the waiting period is over with the woman, if the waiting period is over, she cannot return back to her former husband except with a marriage contract, a new marriage contract. I'll say it one more time. If you look in your books, what is the opinion of the Jamhur, of a lot of the scholars of what they say? From them is a Tirmidhi. If you look in your books, it says what we apply here is the hadith of Amr ibn Shu'ayb an abihi an jaddih. It says that the Messenger of Allah did return Zainab with a new contract. Meaning that after the waiting period was over, so now if the man who's upon the religion of other than al-Islam, he's upon kufr, she had 3 menstrual cycles. It's done. So basically now, and what Tirmidhi is saying here in this particular instance is what? There's no way for her to return back to him now after the iddah period is over, even though he became Muslim, except with a new marriage contract, because he became Muslim after the waiting period was over. Is everyone with me or not? طيب. The narration which is in Zainab, where it says here, upon the authority of Ibn Abbas, the narration when the Prophet ﷺ returned Zainab back to Abu al-As, that narration is saying other than that. It's saying something else. It's saying here now, when the Messenger of Allah returned Zainab back to Abu al-As, that she had 3 menstrual cycles. The waiting period was over. He became Muslim after that. And the Messenger of Allah returned Zainab back to her former husband, even though the waiting period was over, and he became Muslim after the waiting period. And he did not write or make a new marriage contract or marry them off again. So that seems that that's the problem and the ikhtilaf which we want to discuss. Is it clear, or I need to repeat it again? I'll repeat it if people need to be repeated again. Okay. No problem. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, here the hadith of Zainab. The hadith of Zainab, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned Rabi' Abul As ibn Rabi' back to Zainab after 6 years where they were departed, because Zainab became Muslim. Abul As at that time remained upon the religion of Kufr or what have you, or the polytheists or what have you. Tayyib. Zainab migrated with her father, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Zainab had, of course, in Ahl Ilm mentioned this. They said it's far off to say that Zainab had a menstrual cycle that lasted for 6 years. That's far off. They say that's ba'id. She had a menses that lasted for 6 years, 3 menses. That's far off. We don't say that. That's far off. Even though that's an opinion that was mentioned, but all of them say that's the weakest opinion. When Zainab left her former husband, it is agreed upon both discussions, that if a man within the waiting period of a woman's mens, like we said, do we know the waiting period of divorce or whether even apostation is 3 cycles, 3 menstrual cycles. Three menstrual cycles have to pass. Then a woman can get married. Or if the man becomes Muslim in that time frame of her waiting cycle, her mens or menstrual cycle, her waiting period, if he embraces Islam, it's agreed upon. They can resume their marriage without what? Renewing the marriage contract. I'll say it again. If the man, two people are upon the religion of kufr. Two people are upon the religion of kufr. The Muslim, I'm using the woman because the man's situation is slightly different. Slightly. That's the reason why I'm using the woman first, because that's a little bit more clear. The Muslim woman now, she embraces Islam. He remains upon kufr. Now, once a woman embraces Islam, he stays upon kufr, what happens? We said the iddah starts. There is no waiting for pronouncement of divorce. No, it starts automatically. There are cases where the iddah starts automatically. There doesn't have to be no pronouncing of divorce or asking for khula'. Here in this instance, he remained upon kufr. She embraced Islam. So the iddah starts. If a woman truly believes in Allah on the last day, the iddah starts. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Type the iddah now. How many? A woman now has to wait how many cycles, menstrual cycles, until she's able to get married again? 3 menstrual cycles. Type. We know within those menstrual cycles, either one or two things are going to happen. Either she's going to have a mens 3 times, or she's going to come up pregnant. One of the two. Or a miscarriage or whatever. Type, that's still. If a woman now comes up pregnant, then we know it's not permissible for her to get married until what, everyone? Until she has the baby. However, if she does not pregnant, and she has 3 menses, if the man becomes Muslim within that time frame of the 3 menses, if he becomes Muslim, they can resume their marriage. They do not have to come to the masjid and say what? Marry us off again. They can just resume their what? Their marriage. Why? Even though it was a marriage before Islam. Doesn't matter. Based upon the prior narrations that we just mentioned previously in the beginning of the lesson. Right or wrong? So he can what? They can resume the marriage. As long as he what? Became Muslim in the time frame when she was in her what, everyone? Her waiting period. Her iddah. Is it clear so far? طيب. Now, that's clear. Both sides agree on that. Because there's two sides to what we're about to mention. That right there, both sides have unanimously agreed. That is what's correct. What's the problem now? The problem now is after the iddah. When the 3 months is done. Or the 3 months is done if she doesn't have a mens. 3 months is done if she doesn't have a mens. Now let's just say the waiting period is finished. Done. The man didn't become Muslim. Within the time frame, he didn't become Muslim. He stayed upon kufr. طيب. This is the problem here. What's the problem? One opinion saying here now, and that's what Tirmidhi is saying in your books here. If you look at Tirmidhi, where it says Tirmidhi said, the hadith is what was mentioned upon Amr al-Shu'ayb an Abihi an Jiddi in this hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ married them off again with a new marriage contract. Basically, he's saying here, after the iddah is over, let's just say now the man became Muslim after the iddah was over. Tirmidhi is saying what? They have to remarry with a new marriage contract. Because the iddah was over. And he became Muslim after the iddah was over. So the waiting period was done. His chance to retake her or take her back and they resume their marriage is done now. He says concluded, it's over. Tirmidhi and other than them from Ahl Ilm say what? They need a new contract. The hadith previously, Ibn Abbas is saying what, everyone? They don't. They don't need a new contract. If she wants, she could just return back to him. And they could resume their marriage. You see the problem now, where it's problematic at? Is it clear now? Also just came in too. طيب. So now all of us upon one page or not? Sisters, so I hear someone quiet, some people saying yes, some people saying no. No meaning yes? No, I said Tirmidhi said that they need to marry with a new contract. They need to marry with a new contract. Tirmidhi said, if I said that, then that was slip of the tongue for me. I'll say Tirmidhi says she needs a new contract. No, it didn't. It says here in the book, I'm going to read what it says. It says, Tirmidhi says the hadith of Ibn Abbas is better in its chain. But he says what is applied is this hadith of Amr ibn Shu'ayb. Meaning that they have to get married with a new contract. I don't know if this is saying in your English, but this is what it says here. But he says, Al-amal ala hadith Amr Shu'ayb. I don't know if the translator in the book dropped it. He must have dropped it. Because what it says in my book here, and I'm going to read it verbatim. It says that the Prophet ﷺ returned Zainab to Abu al-As with a new contract. So Tirmidhi says the hadith of Ibn Abbas is stronger in its chain. However, what is applied is this one. Is the hadith of Amr al-Shu'ayb. Meaning that the Messenger of Allah married with a new contract. Does that say it in your books or not? Everyone, if that is because hold it. No, because they have the book. Some of the sisters have the book. Hold it for us. The sisters, do they have that in your book or doesn't it doesn't have it? Oh, it does have it? What does it say? Oh, they put it in the footnote. Why do they do that? Hey, that confuses things. Like, hold on now. The brother about to call you there. No, they call you there. This is the reason why we go through these books with the people. Because if the people just sitting in the house reading these books like this, what type of understanding they would probably have? Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. I think he's calling. He's calling. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. أشهد أن الله أكبر، الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمدا والصيد والفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب. What is the footnote saying? I'll say it again. Just focus on what I'll say. I'll say it one last time. I'll say it one last time. The hadith of Ibn Abbas is about Zainab. The Prophet ﷺ, Zainab and Abu al-As at one time were both not Muslim. Zainab became Muslim. Zainab became Muslim. Just focus on what I'm saying. Don't focus on the translator. Focus on what I'm saying. Don't read the book. If a man right now, two people are not Muslim, I think what I'm saying is clear. And I'm going to say it again. Two people are not Muslim. If a woman becomes Muslim, the iddah starts. The iddah is of 3 menstrual cycles. If the man becomes Muslim within the time frame of the waiting period, they can resume their marriage. That's agreed upon. If he becomes Muslim within that time frame, within that 3 months, those menstrual cycles, then they can resume their marriage. What's the problem? The problem is when the iddah is over. If the waiting period is over, Tirmidhi is saying here, which is the opinion of the majority or a lot of scholars, he's saying that the narration of Ibn Abbas does have a stronger chain. But however, the narration of with the Prophet ﷺ marrying them off with a new contract, that's what's applied. Meaning that if the iddah is over, the iddah is over. He's saying that the hadith of Ibn Abbas here, saying that the woman can return back to him. He became Muslim now, but it was after the iddah period. That she can just return back to him with no marriage contract. That's the hadith of Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, you don't have to do a marriage contract. Just resume it. However, the hadith of Amr al-Shu'ayb an Abihi an Jaddeh is saying he did marry them off with a new contract. And that's what Tirmidhi is saying, that this is what's applied. That if he became Muslim after the iddah period is over and they want to remarry each other, they have to bring a new marriage contract. Is it clear what I'm saying? Jayyid. Jayyid, alhamdulillah. طيب. Now we want to discuss, what do the ulama mention about this narration? Let's bring some answers from Ahl Ilm of what you'll find that the great A'imma of these times, what they say about this narration. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and his tilmeed and his student Ibn al-Qayyim mention and say that they agree with the hadith of what? Ibn Abbas. They agree with Ibn Abbas, meaning that after a period of years, that if a woman, of course, by all means, she didn't get married again. She didn't get married again, of course. Once she gets married again, it's over. But let's just say some years elapsed. Some years elapsed. And they were married in Jahiliyyah. They were married in Jahiliyyah. They were married, they were married before Islam, because I don't know what Jahiliyyah people think. But they were married before Islam, before they became Muslim. That if the woman becomes Muslim and her iddah period is over, that now if he became Muslim later on, that she can return back to him without what? Renewing the contract. With a new marriage contract, excuse me. With of course the conditions that she didn't marry anyone else, and they were married before they were Muslim. They were both married before they were Muslim. And she did not remarry after him. And he also, like we said, became Muslim, and the 3 iddah period or the menstrual cycle was passed. Let's just say later on he became Muslim. Tirmidhi and Shaykh al-Islam says they can come back with each other without renewing the contract, based upon the hadith of Abdullah bin Abbas. That's what you'll find a lot of the A'imma leaning towards. But with Tirmidhi mentioning it said, you'll find that even Shaykh Uthaymeen is as if he leans towards that opinion. And I agree with what Shaykh al-Islam and Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned. That if this is the case, then a woman can return back to the person or back to her former husband with those conditions. That they were married before they were Muslim, and, of course, before they were Muslim, then they separated, of course, because she became Muslim, and let's just say he remained upon his religion or whatever. Of course, by all means, there shouldn't have been no interaction in between. It couldn't have been. It shouldn't have been. These days and times, they would have been a lot of probably almost. But I'm just saying, if there wasn't any interaction, she feared Allah. She wanted to carry out what Allah binded upon her. Let's just say 2 or 3 years later, she got some news. Her former husband, she didn't get married yet. She didn't marry any man. She didn't marry anyone. Or let's just say a year later. She had some news. She had 3 menstrual cycles, and she got the news her former husband, what? Became Muslim. There wasn't any interaction or anything. That she now can return back to him with no contract, with those conditions fulfilled. Is it clear what I'm saying? And that is what was leaned towards, even though some of Ahl Ilm say otherwise. But Shaykh Uthaymeen gives some good clarity here. He does give some clarity. He says if one wants to remove his doubt, then it does not harm that you remarry that person, that man who you were previously married to, by a new contract just to remove the doubt. So everything can be what? Removed. Khalas. You understand, everyone? So now if you want to just remove the doubt, then you can do it. You can get a new contract. But based upon this narration, and the narration is strong, if you wanted to return back to him with the condition you were married to him before Islam, and there was no interaction in between, of course, because we have to say that, especially for our people, our society here in this country. There wasn't any interaction in between. Nothing going on, no funny business. And she did not remarry. She had 3 menstrual cycles, or 3 months, because if she doesn't have a mens, then she has to go by the what? By the months. 3 months, if there isn't any cycle. That was concluded. Let's just say a year later, she found out her former husband what? Became Muslim. Based upon the hadith Ibn Abbas, they could resume their what? Could resume it without any what? Without any new contract. But if you want to remove the doubt from yourself, and let's just say, well, I'm skeptical. All right, let's just do it with a new marriage to remove the doubt, and khalas, it's over. It's done. Huh? Is it clear now, sisters? Jay. So I like to pick everybody's brain because these are the affairs of fiqh of what we discussed when I was in college. Because it took a lot of mind and concentration. This is, to me, is a little, this is just the beginning. If I really got into affairs of fiqh, it would be really puzzling. But here, this is just to give an example of why we discuss these matters and why we go through these books, because sometimes the translation in books is confusing. They jumble up a lot of speech and they translate certain things, and sometimes it's not clear. So I'm going to stop here. I think everybody's brain is fried today. I'll just read quickly what Sheikh Salih Fawzan mentioned, because we got about 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to stop. Sheikh Salih Fawzan even mentioned this. He mentioned it quickly. He says, القول الثاني هو الذي أيده الإمام شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية وابن القيم يعني تلميذه كما في زاد المعاد أنه إذا أسلم الزوج الآخر في العدة يعودان إلى النكاح كما قرر العلماء. أما إذا انتهت العدة ولم يسلم الزوج الكافر الذي بقي على الكفر، قال ابن القيم في زاد المعاد النكاح لا يبطل بانتهاء العدة، ولكن يكون لها الخيار إذا شاءت تزوجت وإن شاءت انتظرت إلى أن يأتي زوجها فترجع إليه كما حصل من زينب. As he said, Shaykh al-Islam in Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim said in Zad al-Ma'ad, this book called Zad al-Ma'ad fi Hadi Khayr al-Ibad, that if the husband becomes Muslim within the iddah, then they can resume their marriage. He says, just as the Ahl Ilm have established. He said, that's known, that's established, that's clear. He says, if the iddah is over and the non-Muslim husband did not become Muslim and he remained upon kufr, Ibn al-Qayyim says, the nikah is not rendered invalid by the iddah being over. Listen. He says, rather she has the choice, the woman. If she wants, she could get married, remarried again. Or if she wants, she can wait for her other husband to return back to him, meaning that he becomes what? Muslim. Just as what happened with Zaynab. فإنها انتظرت ولم تتزوج فأرجعها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إليه. He says she waited, she did not get married again. The Prophet ﷺ returned her back to who? To Abu al-As. So Ibn al-Qayyim opposed the Jamhur. He opposed what was the majority opinion. And if you look in fiqh in these issues, not always the opinion of the majority is always correct in certain issues. Not all the time. So Ibn al-Qayyim went against the majority, that the nikah is not over due to the iddah being over. He says, however, the alternative and the choice remains in the hands of the woman. If her former husband becomes Muslim within the iddah, she can return back to him, that's agreed upon. If the iddah is over and she did not remarry and he became Muslim and she wanted to return back to him, she has the choice to either go back to him because he became Muslim or remarry again to another man. She has the choice. طيب, just to sum up everything, how is this connected with what we're talking about now? Meaning the chapter of adequacy and choice. What I just said, just now a minute ago. She has the choice. So the woman now can wait for her former husband to see if he will become Muslim, to resume her marriage with him, or she has the choice to what? Remarry again. So this is the reason why Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar put this hadith in this chapter, showing that the woman has the choice. And this is beautiful. Why? Because a lot of the non-Muslims have distorted to say how a Muslim woman has no choice in anything. She's just covered, she's just oppressed, she has to do what men tell her to do, and that's it. This chapter is nullifying that. This chapter is showing that women do have alternative in Islam. Is it clear? Jade. So we'll stop here and we'll continue because the next hadith you have to understand also. In order for the next hadith, if everyone looks in their book, in order to understand the next narration, you have to understand this one. And then we'll discuss the next one next week, inshallah. There's going to be a little brain plucking for the next narration too. And I like it because it makes our brain stronger and our understanding stronger. You exercise your brain. We need to. Any other questions about the lesson so we can pray? Any questions about the lesson, sisters? Any questions? Please don't be shy, sisters. Any questions about the lesson? Like some women is probably saying, I ain't asking nothing. I'm not asking. I ain't putting myself out there. طيب we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت. أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.